السما. agenda, we have the votes for the bills and payments, and so I'm going to just go through these really quickly. The first one is a vote to approve the payment for Skanska, the OPM design development, and it's $92,135. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Very good. So,
No, but Craig's gonna be there.
so all the ayes say aye?
Aye.
Any nays? No? Very good, thank you, that's approved. Second one is a vote to approve a payment to Castle Booze for the A&E design service, and that's $535,350. Do we have any discussion about that? No, very good. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All the ayes say aye?
Aye.
Any nays? No, very good. Next one is vote to approve a payment for the invoice for Consigli, and this is for the pre-construction services in the amount of $20,361. Any discussion about this? No, do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All the ayes say aye?
Aye.
Any nays? No, very good. Lastly, a vote to approve payment for following invoice for Consigli, and it is construction services in the amount of $666,665.
I do have a question.
Yes, we have some discussion.
Steve, is that for the work that's going on in bid package 1 and bid package 2?
Yes.
So a portion of this is your markup, but most of it's going to subcontractors?
Yes. So our general conditions are in there as well.
And Mary Ann, you endorse this?
I endorse it, yes.
Thank you.
Very good.
That completes my questions.
Any other discussion? Do we have a
So
motion?
moved.
Very good.
Second.
All the ayes say aye?
Aye.
Any nays? No, very good, thank you. Moving on to the next one, it's the Attleboro High School project update. So the first order of business on here is National Grid, but for proposals and a vote. However, Gail just informed me that this was an unrelated project on Rathbun Willow Drive, so it doesn't concern the high school, so we can just skip over that. The next one is, I'm going to turn it over to Consigli, and hopefully they can start with the, it's not on the agenda here, but it's the change proposal log. So I'll turn it over to Steve from Consigli. Good.
Yeah, I don't have one to put on the screen, but I have hard copies that I can share. Hopefully not.
I think it was me.
Yeah, it was you.
Thank you.
Do you have enough of them? You just pass this down. Need more.
Steve, I think we need another one.
No, I was going to offer to pass that down if he doesn't have
Oh.
enough, because I could just share with Gail.
I think we're okay.
Okay.
You got yours this morning.
Okay.
So the log that you're looking at has all the changes that we know about so far to date. And it's broken up by different categories. So we'll just run right through the categories, just an overview of what they each mean. Potential means exactly that. There's something that happened, there's a document that came out that potentially might be a change to the project, might incur costs, whether it's an add or a deduct. We're not sure, it's still being analyzed. When it gets to the submitted category, that means we analyzed it and we believe there indeed is a change to the project that needs to be reviewed. So we've put the document together and we've submitted it to KBA and Skanska to start the review process. Verbal okay means that both KBA and the city have signed off on the change request, and it is approved and ready to be rolled into an owner change. And then voided means that a potential change ended up not being a reality, so we just void it rather than change the number or erase the number. We just void it so that we always have a running list of all the CRs. So we have CRs 001 through 007 in the different categories. So you always know, you can always follow where it ended up and it doesn't drop off the log completely. So if there are no questions on the format of it, the amount on the right-hand side includes any subcontractor costs, any consigli costs, all of our markups. It's the all-in cost for the change. And when we submit these changes for initial review, there's all the backup is there from subcontractors, invoices, material, invoices, everything is included in the analysis.
So Steve, change request number 1.
Yes.
Which is under verbal okay.
Yes.
That was something that we couldn't wait for a meeting because the work had to proceed, correct?
Correct.
And
Or actually-
therefore, we're asking for this group to approve this in retrospect, then, is that correct?
No, that one, changeover one, CR 001 was signed on the 12th, Jack. That one was signed off by the mayor.
So we would have voted
I
at the
believe we
last
had
meeting.
a meeting for that one.
June
That
12th.
was at the meeting.
So did we, as a group, vote on that, Gail?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you.
So CR 001 is signed and done. CR 003 is the next change that has been reviewed by Skanska and KBA, signed off by KBA, and is at the point now where we'd like to present it for authorization at this meeting. So the work involved is changes to the pump station down over by this blue arrow here. The pump station, the size of the valve chamber was changed from, needed to be changed from 5-inch diameter to 8-inch diameter. And then some of the materials that were outside of the chamber itself, it was requested that they be moved inside the chamber because it allows for the longevity and maintenance to be a little easier. So the all-in total is $7,803.64, and that was priced off a document, PR number BP1-002-01, that Kessel Booz had put together with Samiotis and sent through for pricing.
And was that something that was requested by the city's wastewater department?
It was. That's a great point, Jack. Yes. They had requested this.
Do you have any more discussion? Any questions or anything? No? So do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
All the ayes say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Nope, very good. Thank you.
So I have copies for you to sign for that.
Very good.
And then CR 005 is currently being analyzed, and what that entails is when we were excavating up in this area here, in fact, actually,
Yeah.
let me show this off. We have a drone that is going to take periodic photos of the job site throughout construction. And we have a few different set locations that the drone will take pictures from, and this is one of them. This is actually taken this morning. So this area all along here, and this section right here, and then in this section right here, the assumption and understanding of the existing conditions was that there was 1 foot of loam in these areas, and the reality is, in some locations, that ended up being 2.5, so 2 to 2.5 feet of loam. Why is that a concern? It's a concern because it's not suitable to have that much loam under a parking area or a roadway, which is what this will be. This is the extension of Rathman Willard here. So we need to replace all that existing loam with suitable backfill material that can withstand and support what's going above it, so the roadway and the parking lot here. So it was an unforeseen condition, essentially.
Steve, is that because the loam will compact with the weight of vehicles going over
Yes,
it?
yeah, and eventually you'll have failure in the paving.
And so we need to replace it with more
The
structurally
structural
sound
fill.
material?
Yes, yes.
Was there a reason why this was unforeseen? Because at one point that part of that area, I don't know the exact spot, but there was that, for lack of a better term, like a utility road that went from the Brennan entrance out to Rome Boulevard.
Yeah, there's the pathway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so part of it was, there were not a lot of borings or test pits taken in this area over here. There was more concentration on the building site itself,
Okay.
and I think mostly because of what you just described. There was a path there, and it
And because it wasn't as heavily used, it
right. You
probably
would
didn't.
think it wouldn't have that much loam in it.
Yeah.
So rather than waste money on
And
Over.
and sometimes what happens, even when you do borings, like we've done borings and I've been on projects where you go down and you said, oh, we're in a great place, we've hit, ledge, which we wanted to, because we're gonna be building on top of it. And then there was this big V of soil.
Right.
But every boring showed it that we had certain assumptions,
Yeah.
and then they had to keep excavating because there was peat and organics and, so as much as you can, do a grid and you do borings and you try to extrapolate from that until you actually start digging, you never really know until you get into it fully.
5 feet away could be a completely different scenario.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you.
Scott, yeah.
Yeah, and to that end, is the change order for like a certain swath that will cover the road itself?
Yeah, so it's twofold. It's for the road itself, and then a little bit down here by where the pump station is going, and then also underneath. This eventually becomes a parking lot right here. It's going to be temporary parking, but then
Ultimately, it
ultimately
becomes
it's a permanent parking
so
lot.
anywhere where there's potential paving is where you're
E-
identifying.
Exactly. If it's a grass area now and it's going to be a grass area
Right.
4 years from now, we're not replacing it with
Okay,
structural
that's
fill.
Yeah.
where I was going.
No.
Thank you. I assumed that, but I just wanted to
Oh, it's a
get
fair
clarification.
question.
Thank you.
So-
Is this price a unit price or lump sum?
Yep, so we had a unit price for this exact scenario, and the site contractor excavated down to the bottom of existing loam, and then grades were shot to show where they started from and where it ended. And then we're able to calculate the total volume of loam over the area and then multiply by the unit rates.
And is this for to remove, truck it off, and then bring in the
Yes.
suitable material so if that loam is gone, it's not gonna be reused, or could it be reused?
It could not be reused as part of these first two phases.
And one of the challenges with the site is that there's not a lot of laydown area, so
We're on postage
you
stamp.
could end up moving materials once, twice, 3 times.
Right.
So it's actually counterintuitive, but less expensive to move it off-site, and if you have to bring an alternative material in to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a gigantic site right now, but once we start digging the foundation, it's gonna take up a majority of the site, and then between, materials and equipment and the actual size of the new building, this is gonna get awfully small, awfully quick.
If you need space at Highland Park, just let us know. Because if it helps save money, we can use that.
Part of the problem, though, is the double handling.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah,
another part of the problem is you'd be trucking stuff.
Across the street.
Well,
You'd have to test it.
you wouldn't really be able to necessarily go across the street because we'll be building a parking lot there, so you might have to go
Up and around.
up and around and out through the main entrance and put it up somewhere at the back, like where the driving range is. And so you'd be talking quite a route,
Quite a lift.
passing a lot of houses too.
yeah, quite a route that, quite frankly, nobody would expect, because we
Yeah.
hadn't ever discussed having trucks go on those routes, so there's potential for neighbors to be unhappy.
Increased
Respecting that.
trucking.
We'll be able to figure something out, so. Yeah, I mean, it was, Highland's 93 acres, and we're only using a few of it, so, I mean, if it's there for us to use, we can use it, so maybe we can figure something out.
Yeah, and then you also get into different testing
Mhm.
and more testing if you do that as well, so there are some added costs.
When you move the soil from one site to another, you're either contaminating or bringing in material to another area, and then you'll be liable
Correct.
for what you did to that area.
Right, because
That's the danger.
anything outside the fence is considered the limits of work and beyond our site. So all kinds of different regulations come into play.
Very good. So do we have any other discussion, or should we have a motion then?
This
Jack,
is
yes.
Walsh, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I have to abstain from voting on this change proposal.
So yes, so change CR 003 is Walsh as well, yes.
Second?
Oh, the ayes,
I
more
just a
discussion?
question. Once this is submitted, is this mean it's just brought for you for your signature?
I believe so, yeah.
No,
There's no other-
no, what will happen is that they will put, once this number is finalized, it goes on to a change order, which then allows us, when the next monthly, that bill we just paid for $666,000. Well, their next month bill will now include this charge. We will then authorize that to be paid to Consigli, who will pay it to Walsh.
So is this, so I guess just on that end, is this the final number? Is this just a good estimate?
So if you're talking, are you talking about the loan or just in general?
I'm talking about this line item, the 134, 135, 14.
Right now, it is, it's an accurate number based on actual quantities that Walsh has taken out to date.
Okay. I just didn't know if there was a chance for it to go up or down, and that, so then would this vote be to approve it in kind, so to speak, and that there could be an adjustment to the amount, that's all?
It would be a new change order request.
Yeah, we'd create a new change request if we found.
If there was additional?
Additional,
Okay,
right.
thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
I have no more
And
questions.
just in general, when it's in the submitted category, it means that.
It's a
it
good
is
number.
Yeah, we finalized, we feel like the number is correct and accurate, and it now Skanska, KBA, and the consultants are looking at it.
So for example, you'll get the civil engineer looking at this in addition
Right.
to us.
So if the number ended up coming in slightly under, then that would be adjusted on the next bill that we would see?
So we would, in most cases, when a change request is presented, it'll be a lump sum cost.
Okay,
So the cost is what it is, but if we go like time and materials, then there's a chance that it could come in under the number.
okay.
But if we're not doing time and materials, then it's considered lump sum, and it's not gonna go above, and it's
Not
not gonna
going
go
up,
below.
not going down.
Okay, it's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Scott,
that-
in the
yeah.
past, we have voted a not-to-exceed number where it was time and materials to authorize the work to go, and then once the number is known, we come back afterwards and substitute
Right.
the real number.
Right, I've remembered that a couple times on NBC, so it's just my PM budget hat on. I just
Yep.
wanted to make certain that that's like a valid number, so that when you sign it, we've all agreed that this is the number you sign. So,
Yep.
okay, thank you for the clarification.
With Jack abstaining, do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
All the ayes say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Oh, very good, measure's adopted. Thank you.
And then, just a couple other views just to show off for, so eventually, obviously, this is the building site, so this is gonna be one of the standard picture points, over the course of the project. And over the next couple of weeks, you'll start to see this parking lot, this paving be ripped up. You can't really see it too well here, but the new fence line, I'm sure everybody saw it when they came in, has been established. So we'll put the blue trim on over the next week. Wrap anywhere that there's fence. And then we'll also start to remove different things like the dugouts and the different fencing, existing items on both of these fields. And we'll start work on, we've already started some work back here in the south parking lot. And over here on the side of Blue Pride Way, they've started some clearing as well for that parking lot, so that'll continue over the next couple of weeks. And then the biggest thing is we'll be working in Rathman Willard, putting in the sewer line, the new sewer line, which is it's a deep excavation. It's a major portion of this work. It's deep and it's right in the middle of the road. We're gonna try to maintain so that there's car access around at least one lane. But we'll know better in the next couple of days when we excavate the first hole and see how the conditions are. But either way, we've got signage lined up and police details lined up if we do need to divert traffic.
And notifications going out. I saw that it was sent to Gail, that But there's approximately 2 weeks, and you were copied on it.
Steve, the parking you described, the south parking and the parking by Blue Pride Way, those are part of the interim parking that we have to have in place to open school in September, correct?
Yes, that's bid package 2.
End of August.
End of August, yeah.
Excuse me. That's,
Yes.
I'm just old. School used to start after Labor Day.
So these blue points here will just be, in the future, will just be like a still photo. There won't be the fun 360 here. That's just going to be a still, but we're going to update and periodically take pictures from that location. And then I think we have one more. We've got a couple down here as well. So I'll update this and show this at each one of these meetings if people feel that this is helpful to have this view,
I think so.
this type of view. Okay.
Thank you.
So you're going to tell us about 6 and 7?
Before we move on.
CR 6 and 7? Yes.
I have a question on your change request log status.
Yes.
Is there a column available to show the drawdown off of the contingency money where change orders are being drawn down from?
Versus an owner change order, like a draw in the contingency. Can you,
Would these change orders be draws on contingency money?
you're talking about the
These change-
CM construction contingency. Now, these are,
No.
No.
This is the short version. These are changes to the project. So this would increase the GMP, but I believe there's
there's
money
a strategy,
aside.
let me put it this way, there's, yes, there is money there is a strategy that when we bid the project and we execute the GMP, it's within the budget, and any pre-GMP change orders are going to be rolled into the GMP so that the MSBA looks at it. And, after we establish the GMP.
Understood.
They don't
Since we have a
review
hard
change
cap of 259, 980 something, isn't that necessarily going to reduce the owner's project contingency?
Once we establish a GMP, we will draw on the owner's construction contingency.
But
what-
but that's where this money's going to come from then, isn't it?
Not at this
Not-
point in
not at
time,
this
no, it's gonna
point.
be rolled into the GMP. Once we establish a GMP, all change orders up to this point in time are rolled into the GMP, the 223 million.
But then that means that the amount that's left between the GMP, the soft costs, and our hard cap is the contingency, right?
Yes, we have several contingencies. We have the construction manager's contingencies. We actually have multiple contingencies within, until we bid the project, saying,
But then let's go back to my question. Won't that necessarily reduce the amount we have available for the contingency because we have a hard number of 259, 980 something, don't we?
I think you're saying it's part of the right now it's part of the CM contingency that's already been,
no,
Established?
no, that's not true. You're
The
paraphrasing.
contingencies are fixed as part of the budget for the project, so if GNP is under the expected construction cost of the project, that delta will go back.
Okay. So if the bid results come in better, we can absorb this change order
Into the
Yes.
GMP.
into the GMP.
Yes.
Okay,
without
now it
tapping the
makes-
owner's contingency.
Now it makes sense.
Now, the only place that we did utilize, because there is a category called utility fees, where we, which is really the owner's cost, we have been drawing on that for the National Grid and Columbia Gas work orders. But the below the line, 1% that you have for new construction, we haven't tapped that for owners' change orders.
So maybe this was the basis of Eddie's question.
No, she answered my question beautifully. It hasn't exceeded the GMP number yet.
Correct.
So, but as a follow-up, when you asked that, something I thought of and what I thought you were getting at is looking at that hard 259, 680. Is there a way to, when some bids come under, to know where where we stand along the way.
I think what they said, if I understand it right, is that we have a construction budget of somewhere around $223 million. And until we have all the bids in, we don't know whether that's at 223, 225, 221. So if it's at 221, we can easily pay for this 144 out of the underage without affecting
Right.
our contingency. So does that,
That's right, and that's exactly where we're going with this. I mean, there will be, I did the same thing at Minuteman, where
Right.
we were in construction for a year before we had a GMP. And yes, we did have unforeseen conditions. We hit ledge, we hit peat. There were things that came up, and we executed change orders to the subcontract, and change orders in the sense of rolling them up into pre-GMP amendments. But we don't submit to the MSBA until we have a GMP. And in that GMP, those change orders, for site work are in the site work number. And so then we're starting at the point, and in our case, it'll probably be February 2020, that when we have a GMP, we're starting with 0 change orders. But anything going forward will go through that typical change order process that you're familiar with.
Thank you.
And the
Yeah.
increase in the GMP would be to our construction GMP at that point.
Correct. Right, it's
Not
all
the-
rolled
Not
up.
the overall.
Right, gotcha. Understood. Thank you.
Yeah. And I don't have the 3011 in front of me, and it's,
Right.
there's contingencies in so many different places that almost have to be a CPA,
But I think at that point, something that's detailed, because we all know this project is highly scrutinized by a lot of people in the city. So when we get to that point, being able to itemize what has changed from our initial plan, I think will be helpful for people to digest what the plan is going forward and where everything stands.
So, right, and so to that point, nothing has really changed in the plan. It's just that
Right.
we anticipated that we would have unforeseen conditions, and we are.
Yeah,
And,
Right.
And that was accounted for in the budget.
yeah. The expected, unexpected.
Yes,
I think that line item right there just kind of sums up where I
yeah,
was trying to go, so thank you.
okay.
what about 6 and 7, Steve?
So 6 and 7 are new items that are being analyzed right now. Item 6, it's a PR from Kessel Booze that changes some drainage structures over at the Highland area. That this actually could potentially be a savings in the long run. So we just received this, so we sent that over to Walsh for pricing right now. And then CR7 was a CCD that changed some of the manholes going into Rome Boulevard based on existing conditions of some existing pipes that are in there. So we had to change some, add some drop inlets and change some elevations of inverts. So we had to make some adjustments to the manhole. One of them was about $1,800, and there's a few of them at play here, so I don't see it as a huge dollar item. It's more just capturing the right scope, and it's one of those things where there's not a lot of wiggle room because it's existing conditions under the street, so we're just making it work.
Not everything that exists under the ground is documented in a way you could look at it and say, oh, we just need to do this. It's, you discover things, and sometimes they're not always where everyone thinks they may be till you open up the road.
No, because they're not ready for numbers yet, but I just wanted to make sure that we as a body knew that what was coming down the road, so it isn't a surprise at the next meeting.
So would it be helpful for us to put an order of magnitude in the future, if we know it, for the potential changes that are being analyzed?
I think so.
Restaurant dollars.
Not gonna hurt.
$2, $3, $4 signs.
Like a Yelp review?
Yes.
So we can definitely do that, as long as you don't hold me to it.
High,
but yes.
medium, low,
Yeah,
something.
Order of magnitude, we call it.
yep, we can do that.
OM.
Which is sometimes confusing and a real waste of
package
time and
3
resources.
Yeah. scientific swag, you know,
Swag.
Uh,
Well, we just,
scientific
well,
wag.
we just
they
asked
were-
when we,
One of them
when they're
was
presented.
$100 and Walsh agreed to eat it.
Right,
And the
right.
other one was
I
something
mean, when
that
we
turned out, I think,
come
not to be
across the
needed.
conditions, then
Yeah.
So I don't think we need to
they're
go
asked to
over.
price it.
Okay, moving on. So Steve, thank you. So would you be so kind as to report on bid results, bid package number 3?
Yeah, so we'll start big picture overall. Tonight, we are in a position to ask for approval for the site concrete, the overall concrete package for the building, the site work package for bid package 3, and then some vibration and pre-construction monitoring services that I'll get into. So that's 3 out of the 5. The other 2 pieces are the structural steel for the building and then the landscape. And if we add up all the numbers based on the 3 that we know and where we are right now with bids that we've received in our analysis of steel and landscaping, if we add all that up, we're projecting to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 500,000 under the overall bid package 3 budget, which is good news. You know, there's ups and downs. The site is more than we thought, but the
Yeah.
steel is less than we thought. Concrete came in a little less, landscape might come in a little more, but we had estimating and contingency and escalation set aside for these exact reasons. So when we factor all that in, we get to that 500 range for bid package 3, and there's a chance that that could come down a little bit more depending on how we do make out with landscaping. So overall, that's good news. And then if we analyze all the packages to date on the project, so include these packages tonight and the projections for steel and landscaping, we're in the $700,000 to $800,000 savings across all 15, 16 of those packages.
So everything approved to date in those couple that are pending. So in my mind, that's good news. We're trending within budget.
Steve, we put a halt to the permitting for the artificial western fields because we didn't know where these bids were going to come in at. If we were to go forward with those fields, we still need to save more money.
Correct.
But at this point, should we authorize Samiotis through KBA to go forward with that permitting, because we need a stormwater permit from the Conservation Commission? The design work, as I understand, it's already done. We would just incur the cost of a couple of meetings and for the peer review by Horsley Witten. So do you feel confident that we should go ahead with that permitting? Because if we wait till February when we have our GMP and we start the permitting then, it'll be June before we have the permits, and we will not be able to get the fields in a timely fashion.
Right. We would recommend absolutely moving forward with the permitting process based on its seemingly short dollars, and you just described worst-case scenario. If we wait and we're not able to start construction until June, we will not have the field complete by the fall so they can be used, which I think is what Bill wants. So we need to hit the ground running in February, March, as soon as the weather breaks. So in order to do that, we need to have all the permits in place and then eventually move forward with submittals and all that if we know that we are moving forward with the field. So if we don't want to lose
Marianne,
any time.
do you endorse that?
I do endorse it because the bidders are holding their price for 6 months. And if we let it spin into 9 or 10 months, aside from not getting the fields when you want to, then there's an escalation factor that may come up where they say, look, hey, you know, your new price is X because, you know, I was only asked to hold it for 6 months, and, you know, we didn't want to ask them for 9 months because they would have thrown money at
Right.
it just to cover themselves, and so we would realize that gain there. So I would strongly recommend.
So basically, for short money, we prepare ourselves, and we're not committed unless we, you know, but if we do, if it does come in that we can do this, we're ready to go.
We can
Yes.
spend a couple $1,000s on the consultant and the peer review that the city does, because the work's already done for the design.
And save half a year's worth of time or better
The
on
money
the permitting
would,
process.
the money would come back to us in spades in terms of not having the price go up from what's already been
Right.
bid.
Right.
Absolutely.
Or paying overtime because now you're rushing to
Right.
get it
Sure.
done for the use in the fall.
Yep.
And there's all that premium time that hasn't been accounted for.
No,
So
I get
it's,
it.
I think it's a win-win to do that.
So I move that we authorize KBA with their consultant Samiotis to proceed with the permitting for the Western Fields reconstruction.
Second.
All the ayes say aye?
Aye.
Any nays? No? Very good. Thank you.
So to dive into the specific OALs ready to present tonight, approval letter number 12 is for the concrete work. We went out to bid, we received 4 bids for this. We had thorough D-scopes with the low qualified bidders. We brought them in with Skanska, KBA, and the structural engineer as needed. And we got to J.L. Marshall and Son is who we're recommending at a dollar amount of $9,686,450. Within that, we also have some allowances for some admixtures in the concrete in case if we need to pour. We're definitely going to be pouring some in winter. So we'll need some admixtures, so we have some money set aside for that. And then also, on the flip side, in the summer, sometimes if it's too hot, you've got to put some cold water in and to help things and do some different things. So we've added money for that and some allowances for additional MEP pads within the building that are still being designed at this point. So we have some money set aside there as well. And then just some other smaller contingencies or allowances, including 5 Saturdays to open up the concrete plant in case we get to that point where schedule requires us to work a Saturday to open up the plant. There's some money set aside for that. Again, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 allowances. So the beauty of the allowances, if the money comes in under, all the savings goes back to the project. So that's included in the 9,686,450 recommended value.
J.L. Marshall's located right down on Pond Street, aren't they?
Yes, they are fairly local.
Very good.
Concrete escalation costs are already included.
They're in there. Yep. A bulk of the work is going to be completed between now and say, this time next year. And then it turns into a lot of site concrete, sidewalks, things like that. So a bulk of the cost will be over the next year or so.
Be pouring the slab.
Yeah, footings, foundations, and then all the slabs. That's the bulk of the work. And that work starts this summer, actually, for the footings, and then into the fall, and the slabs are next year.
That's when the fun begins.
Then all the hardscape stuff afterwards. Right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
So about OAL 13 site work.
So OAL 13 for the site work. Again, we.
Should we vote on
Should we vote on
Oh,
J.L. Marshall?
Yep.
Wanna do
J.L. Marshall?
Sure, we can vote on it.
Moved.
Second?
All the ayes say aye?
Aye.
Any nays? No? Very good. Stopped it. OAL site work.
Site work. Again, we received 3 qualified bids from companies that we've worked with in the past, very capable companies. Same thing, thorough D-scopes. Skanska was involved, KBA was involved, Samiotis was involved as needed, and we have same thing here. We have several allowances for unsuitable materials, for contaminated materials potentially. We have allowances for additional test pits, some removal of some existing vaults, and then we have money in here for street sweeping and snow removal, which again are allowances. So if we have mild winter, a couple of winters, we don't need to spend it all on removing snow from the site, then that money again goes back to the project. Same thing with street sweeping. We'd rather be conservative here and cleaner rather than messier, so there's money set aside for additional street sweeping as needed there. Again, that's an allowance. So the all-in number is 16,785,865, and we're recommending Northeast Contractors is the site contractor.
And for the record, Walsh did not bid on this, correct?
They did not.
So I don't have a conflict.
Correct.
Very good. Any further discussion? No? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second. All the ayes say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Very good. And lastly, the OAL 14 vibration monitoring.
Yeah, so this is, call it a safety measure for the project. And what this consists of is doing what's called a pre-construction survey of the 17 residents that are, quote, within 300 feet of the project site. And what that means is someone will inspect the inside and the outside of the houses and document the conditions, any cracks, any existing conditions, and then we will set up vibration monitoring on site so that we know if there's anything that we do as part of construction that goes above a certain level, that there's potential that maybe there could be damage caused to these houses. But we'll have documented kind of the before picture, if you will. So before construction and then after construction, so we'll be able to tell if something indeed did happen. If there was a vibration level above the threshold that's acceptable, that may have caused some damage and someone reports some damage, we'll be able to document and research and check the validity of it. So it's a good practice to do this. We've done it on other projects. It does come at the cost of $72,400, but that also includes the vibration monitoring. We carried it monthly throughout the duration of the project, but if we feel that we're at a point where the vibrations are going to be limited and we want to suspend that for 6, 8, 2 months, we can do that, and this price comes down. So this is an allowance to do this work. The worst case scenario of 72.4. We are recommending Geocomp Consulting, Inc. do the vibration monitoring and set up the monitors themselves, and then Falvey Associates would do the pre-construction surveys of any of the residents that would allow it.
So, you just mentioned any of the residents that would allow it. How much of a radius are you talking about in terms of how many houses, what streets?
Yep, so it was recommended by Geocomp to do 200 feet, but we took it a step further. We actually went 300 feet from the building site. So it's all the streets to the north of the building.
So Fairway,
essentially.
Green.
Yeah,
Okay.
Rathbun, yes.
Yep.
So anyone within that 300-foot radius is included in this number. Now, people can choose not to allow us to do this work, and that's totally up to them, but.
And would it be monitoring on each property, or would it be like at
No.
a property line?
The
or-
monitoring would be on our site,
Okay.
but we would know if there was an incident on site that had a potential to go out that 300 feet, the monitoring would tell us that.
Okay.
I will tell you an extreme true story, and it was actually with Consigli, but not with you, where we worked on a project and we were blasting. And somebody made the claim that we blew a rock off the hill the size of a Volkswagen, and it was in their backyard and they wanted it removed. So we ended up going back and looking at Google Earth before the school even bought the property, and that rock was there. So we were able not only to say we can demonstrate that we haven't exceeded the allowable vibration limit, and there's no way that that could have happened, but oh, by the way, Google Earth backs up what we saw. So that's an extreme example, but somebody might say, oh, my picture fell off the wall. Well, a picture can fall off the wall, and it might not have anything to do with the activity on the site.
Yeah.
You know, so there will be people that will come out of the woodwork and make claims, and it might be that, you know, they might have a crack and never see it.
Cracked
And,
foundation.
but all of a sudden, with all the work going on, now they see the crack in the foundation, but maybe the crack was always there.
It's an insurance policy, Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, just I know with Attleboro Sand and Gravel and the blasting that they do, but yeah, that they do monitoring around their blasts on neighboring properties. So I didn't know if I didn't know how far away you were going, and sometimes it may be one house isn't impacted, but 3 houses down, that may be outside that 300 foot, so I didn't know. So it's good to know what the radius is.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it was
Steve,
actually
it's-
Jack's idea to extend it the extra 100.
It's standard, and those are the people who got notice, the 300
Yeah.
feet, so that's kind of why we thought that was a good idea. But it is standard procedure to do this for blasting, the insurer for the
Yes.
blasters. But I want to be very clear for those at home, we are not doing any blasting.
Correct.
No.
Right, correct.
So this is just an insurance policy and an excess of caution so that we know whether we affect any of our neighbors or not.
Correct.
And I just want to make sure that the limit is far enough that, because some of the neighbors, when they were getting there, some got letters and some didn't, and they didn't know why, and they thought they didn't receive it, that the limit's far enough, and you're including everyone that should be getting the
Yeah, we believe
pre-construction
we've
surveys
taken it
done.
actually above and beyond what's reasonable.
We exceeded the limit by 50%. You know, it's recommended 200 feet, we went out 300 feet.
Thank you. So do we have any other discussion? Do you have a motion to approve this?
So moved?
Second?
All the ayes say aye?
Aye.
All the nays? Very good, thank you. And so we also have some votes to recommend to the mayor to sign the OALs for 12, 13, and 14 in these amounts because we've approved what they're doing, but now we have to do the signing. So do we have any discussion about that? Probably not, no. Very good. Do we have a motion?
So moved?
Second?
All the ayes say aye?
Aye.
Very good. And vote to recommend the mayor to sign the OAL number 13, site work amount of $16,785,865. Motion?
So moved?
Second?
All the ayes say aye?
Aye.
Any nays? Very good. Vote to recommend the mayor to sign the owner's authorization letter number 14, vibration monitoring, the amount of $72,400.
So moved?
Second?
All the ayes say aye?
Aye.
Any nays? No, very good, thank you. And also a vote to award bid package number 3. Do we have any discussion about that?
I think we took,
Did we do that vote
we
already?
did that. That's,
It's those individual
we did
ones.
pieces of bid package 3.
Right, so there's still 2 pieces
Still
left,
two
two letters left for the next meeting. It'll be steel and landscaping.
Okay, so we don't
That'll
vote on
be-
that now then.
Right, and at that time, if we are able to complete those by the next meeting, we will also have the entirety of bid package 3 available as well.
Okay, very good. We'll table that for now. Castle Booze for an update on Blue Pride Mall images. Hey, Craig.
You can say yes.
Yep, we're moving, okay.
Sorry, I was late. I was battling traffic from the North Shore on a beautiful day. So, to kind of recap where we are. We, in the past, we've reviewed most of the school from a design standpoint. But one space we hadn't reviewed with the group is the quote-unquote mall area. And I say quote-unquote because we're still determining what that might be called potentially, to make sure that we are not outdated with what we name it, where they're called many different things these days, as very different from even back in the days when they're called arcades or galleries. So we've thrown out a bunch of ideas, but there's nothing ready to share with the group. But so what you'll see when this is loading, once it's finished, is the move this over. There we go. We're just kept it as the Blue Pride Mall because that's what we called it from the early stages. And just for everyone as a reminder to everyone, the Blue Pride Mall included a main lobby area, and then there's the graphics. There is the restaurant, the Bristol County Savings Bank, and then the cosmetology area. So if you remember, it's on the right side opposite of Central Admin. The main entry would be over there. We just did a smaller model so we get better rendering today to talk to you. But it's got its own entry in through here. And what we've done is we've created this monument wall here. Get this there. So when you walk in the doors, it's looking at you right in the face. It's a simulated, it's a plastic material that gives a simulated wave to it. So it's kind of the intent is to evoke the feeling of a waterfall without having the maintenance of having a water feature. And so we have some pictures.
Bill, Bruni, is that the right font for
No.
Blue Pride? It's not?
No, that's not the font we're going to be using. It's just a stock that we've kind of put in there
Okay.
for the time being. Whether we actually use the Superstar 55, 54 font or another one, that's to be determined. I think that's kind of an idea that we've bounced around as what the brand of this space will be, and that will probably determine a lot of what goes on the actual element. But moving this over, you can kind of see an example of it, of an installation of it, where you light it from the top and the bottom, and then it's a plastic panel that's ribbed, and then you put it in multiple layers, so it can give a really cool effect that's durable, cost effective. So here's another example of it there, but that instead of being lit from the back, and they make it in translucent, transparent. But that's what we're looking at for the main feature wall. As you enter in, creating a seating area that's built in. And then as you go through, you could see the Blue Pride Bistro on the right side with the Bristol County Savings Bank on the left. The design is different from what we're showing here. We just took an early rendering of their model and placed it in, but we just got an updated one from them. Now, just as a reminder that all the work in the Bristol County Savings Bank is by Bristol County Savings. We're just providing them the shell to do their work in as part of that. So that's why it looks the way it does. But it will look better as we work with them to update the design. Coming in, you can see the Blue Pride Bistro, where we try to create that avant-garde kind of feel with the logo. And you can actually, up in this fork, we've updated this logo, just haven't modeled it yet, but the vertical portion of the fork actually says Pride, so it's the Blue Pride Bistro as a mirror around that, trying to create a little bit of a logo for it as part of the design. And then going in, you can see that we're placing a film on this is a folding glass wall with the intent that and it has a door in it, so that with the full intent that it allows the transparency of the storefront of it as a restaurant, but it can also be opened up to really let the space blend out into for large events, so it doesn't feel like it's its own little space blending off of the main lobby area. Inside,
if I may, like the versatility of bringing it out into the lobby was something that was important to us because of the fact that, you know, the relevance of our culinary team being able to use this space on a regular basis, we feel has tremendous potential for all sorts of like afternoon and evening type activities as well. So being able to have a greater level of seating capacity by opening it up into the lobby was important.
yes. So in working with the group, of course this is bugging out on me. The left side of the restaurant is all the furniture in there is completely movable, but we've taken booth type furniture and then regular furniture as well as lounge furniture along the window, bar height furniture, giving multiple different types of opportunities within the space to congregate. And part of the reason I talk about it being all movable is it makes it become a very flexible space so that you could have events in there, different types of seating. Off the side of this, there's a table and chair storage. So if you want to move some of this stuff out and to open it up more for different events and bring just more chairs in, that was part of the discussions we had as we worked through and designed it, so that it could serve almost as a secondary display area. inside here, there's a TV that's hanging on the wall, straight ahead on the left, as well as then a art walls. Sorry, my computer's not liking what I'm doing. I'm just gonna close down this. And so there we go. The beyond is the bakery, and with the bakery, what you could see here is we tried to create that warm hearth, like with the stone wall on the left side, but bringing in the warm materials of the wood in the ceiling, the wood in the floor, kind of a mixture between a modern bistro and a cafe. The wall on the back side you can see is a chalkboard wall, so that the menus could be written on it, etc. There's also TVs that allow the students to digitally display them, as you would see in there, as well as us working to highlight this space with the at night and the right now my computer's cooperating. I'm actually going to close this one and bring a different one over. I was having a glitch trying to make the new one. That's why I was sitting in the back. But the new one was working in the background while we're up here, so I'm going to bring that one over. It shows a little bit more progress. And we also included the site so you can get a better idea of that. So the intent with the Blue Pride Mall, or whatever it's called, is parking would occur over in this area, and you can kind of see how things are from the main entry down there. There's handicap spaces, electrical vehicle charging stations, and we've created a little mini plaza with a walkway along this area. There's lights that are up in the canopy here, so that at night this pathway is lit as well. And then you would come to this, and so we were playing with a little bit even this, kind of calling it the atrium with the A on it. Again, nothing has been really decided upon, but we're always trying to have fun. And you can see what we did is we actually brought that three-sided A in, so it makes it three-dimensional since you're approaching it from the side. But this is obviously, this is the first time everybody's seen it because I did it earlier today. But then, as we mentioned, the font in here, and so what you could start to see as we go into the Blue Pride Bistro, we did see what Bristol County's planning on doing. We gave them liberty to do this area as far as their branding, and so they're looking to do a wood plank wall there. And so I brought that a little bit, and you can see how this is more of the updated of what they're looking at. So I took off the materials because we don't know what they're going to pick just yet as part of their package. But as you come in here, you can start to see the TV, the gaps in the walls that you see in the stone is intended to be able to put pictures up on. So it could be student artwork, it could be a revolving display of pictures of around town, historic. Really, we wanted to keep it as an empty palette, an empty canvas, so that you guys could make it and the students could make its own identity to it. And as you see through here, there's the bakery, and when we're looking at that, one of the inspirations we were using, and it doesn't render well with Enscape, so that's why I brought along this picture. But if you could see, and you look at this tray that hangs out with this light, that we're looking to light that up to really create a ring, because it is when you're looking at it from a backdrop, but instead of using a white ring, we're looking to use a blue like this. And even when you're looking at this picture, that wavy blue that I was talking to you at the front, you can actually see it around the bar here. The interior designer we're working with, this is one of their projects, and so they brought this in to talk to us about for inspiration. So that's what we're looking at here, and you can see the different scales. The other thing that was important to the group when we were doing it, as you can see it up there, is there's a projection screen that can drop down out of the ceiling, so that you can display in this room and create presentations. The students, when we were programming, it was important to create a restaurant that would be realistic to them. Multiple opportunities for points of sale stations for them to enter in. And so there's one over there, one near the door, also one at the bakery. From a flow, students would come in one side where my mouse is currently, and they would go back into the kitchen here so that you don't have that crisscrossing that you hear stories about in a restaurant. So you always want to keep that flow separate. And so that brings us into here. As we get it out into the gallery area, or the atrium, we can call it, we looked at how we can create a space that has some volume, but has some timeless feel to it, and really has some excitement to it. And as we were looking through for ideas, we looked at this picture and we thought, well, wouldn't that be kind of fun? Because we're using these linear lights throughout the building, as you've seen, but can we get a little bit more playful with it so that it has a feeling at night and during the day, and really has the ability to become multiple layers, starting to define the different storefronts and zones within the space. So when we did that, that's when you're looking at here, you could see those trays through here. Again, because Enscape doesn't render well live like this, we did start to work with some shots of it in still shots that I'm going to bring over now, where you can see, like, this is where it could be during the day where those are turned off, but they could also then be turned on to create that effect at night, so you could start to see the different zones of the different spaces. So as part of the mall, we try to give each space its own identity. So just like every storefront would have their own identity. The Blue Pride Bistro currently exists, so we've kept that name. We know the cosmetology program, we don't know what it's going to be called or if it's going to have a brand. But what we've done is we've created wall that comes out that's a dark wood palette wall that has this light, and to the right is the actual entry to cosmetology. But even for that space, as we've worked to create it, is bringing in the cosmetology. So these were some of our inspirations for it. Bring it up. You can see, so like using wall coverings of the green, in the lower right, the kind of ambiance, the really spa-like feel to it, and then the reception area. So going back to here, you can see how we've looked to play this so that then you get in and you can see the cosmetology. It's important that even though we're seeing it and talking about it as a salon the public can come to, it's still a teaching space. So as we're looking and you go into here, as you see, there would be the reception desk, and we're trying to capture all the program that exists now is to make sure that we meet every part of the framework. And so there's certain things that they need to teach the kids, greeting a guest, all those items. So it's important for us to kind of include it in the space, but also we've put the stations at an angle like this. It creates a very dynamic view. What it really does is allows for a lot of supervision throughout. You can be anywhere in the room and really be able to see all of the kids, see what they're doing. And it also allows the kids to see what each other are doing. Would really encourage that collaborative nature of it. So there's, as part of the salon, the area, there's these multiple stations. The hair washing with back bar there, as well as then the manicure area to the left here, to the right, sorry. Then you come out, and in the mall area here, you can see the nice natural light that comes into this area. And then straight ahead would be the graphics area. And again, we don't know if that's going to become a name, if each one of these is going to become a storefront or a branded identity. So we've kept it very simple from the graphics of the graphics. and not knowing where things are going to end up developing. But with what we worked with them is they wanted this waiting area, a greeting area, with this conference room here that then functions as a way to bring clients in, review their projects with them. It also functions as a teaching space where the kids could pin up what they're working on and give critiques of it. So that's kind of the goal with why they brought this here, is it really creating that twofold space that really they can showcase even the work that they're doing to the public when they do come in, for instance, for business cards or something along those lines. And also giving that feel that it's a working space. So beyond, you could see all the equipment that they're working with, the screen printing you can see straight ahead, the copiers are around the corner because they're not as exciting to see, but and then a lot of their finishing equipment, so that it's really just to see the working with their own front desk area. So that's really kind of an update on the mall of where we are going with it from a design standpoint. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Happy to answer them for you.
Very good, thank you. Thank you, folks. So that's all we have on the agenda tonight, but does anybody else want to talk about any new business?
Craig, could you go back to the your screensaver of the front of the building?
Oh, yeah. This one?
That one. So about a month or so ago, we had residents from Burnt Drive in here, and they had concerns about the sign. And I had promised those residents that I would go out and investigate some other areas, and I have. So I just wanted to report back what my observations were on some of the places that I visited. I went to Taunton High School, Seekonk High School. I went down South Main Street to the Elks. They have a digital board now, and Attleboro Jewelers in the center of town has a sign. So I went at various times of dusk and darkness to take a look at it and how it projected and stuff like that. The only observation that I really made, and the residents had multiple problems when we were trying to identify what their multiple concerns were, but one of the concerns was the light projection. And I believe the science, and I'm not questioning that. But what I did notice, my observation of those 4 signs, is that the signs were, and I didn't have a transit when I did this, but the signs were, or appeared to be, completely perpendicular to the road. So they were at 90 degrees, where I believe we are at we're at a 30-degree angle, or slight.
We're
Are we at perfect 90 degrees?
Yes.
That was the only thing I couldn't remember on our design.
Yeah.
Our sign was at perfect 90 degrees.
Yep.
So an observation from approximately 100 up to 100 yards away, 300 feet away, and then changing my angle of the cone. The science is there. I couldn't find anything that would be different than what you've designed to back that up. And that's really all I could have to offer by just doing some simple observation. But I promised that to the people that were here that I would do that, and just wanted to follow up with that. And that's really all I have on that. Regarding the science, Jack and I have had this conversation before when one of Jack's clients was building O'Reilly's auto parts.
Yes.
And at the public hearing, I had concerns about light pollution. It was my neighborhood. It was at the end of my street, directly at the end of my street, much like the people on Burnt Drive. But I believe the science, and I knew the science, and the science proved true. So if you go down to O'Reilly's auto parts now, there's very hard lines on the light trespassing. It almost completely shapes their property line. So I could offer that to the residents. It's just a case and study. I had similar concerns. They proved to be true. And there's areas in the city that you can see that. So that's all I have to offer. I didn't have no solutions, no recommendations or anything other than just some observations, and that's all I have. So I just wanted to follow up with that and kind of close that out.
If I can add something to that, Craig, I don't know if you can address this. Maybe Joe is the right guy, but National Grid objected to the location of our signs because it's on top of their easement, and the mayor went to bat with them. And it appears that they have agreed now to allowing the signs to stay there, but only if they don't have footings, but have sort of a slab on grade. And we can still bring conduit in to bring power and whatever to the digital sign to change it. So I know that Joe was looking at some redesign issues related to the signs. Would that change the appearance of the signs or not?
No, that wouldn't change the appearance. It's just instead of doing, like you would have on your house, a standard spread footing so the wall goes down, that we would do what they call a mat slab, so it kind of just floats instead of being a strong load that you would have with a foundation wall. You're spreading the load out so you don't have to worry about it as much. And so, yes, it would create these signs up on a little bit of a plinth, but that's nothing we can't overcome with some landscaping. Is the reality of it. It would look a little bit different than what you see here, but we'll overcome that. That people won't know the difference when it's all done.
I had a question. Has the masonry for the outside of the building been selected yet, or?
We've selected a basis of design for a color because we have to give them a color, etc., to be able to. There is hundreds of bricks out there. But we have to, legally, we pick at least 3. We reviewed that, I think we reviewed that 6 months ago here with the bricks. So the actual final brick won't be selected probably until the end of the year when the mason proposes what brick they want to use on there, and then we have to make sure it meets the spec, down to the color, the texture, etc.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other new business anybody wants to discuss? No? So shall we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Very good.
Second.
Our next meeting is July 24th, I believe. Yeah, July 24th. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, night.
The David. Yes, I could. My in-laws for Christmas got me a great art collection of socks. I think that there's a leaf on the